I was notified by Mr. Ducro of a website posting by Miss Janet Gillich, which stated the following, and bear with me, I'm going to read this as it verbatimly was posted. A local woman working in a business on Main Avenue, Ashtabula City, Wednesday night, June 20th, about 8:30 p.m., found a young man lying on the floor, blue in color, in obvious emergency state of distress. She called 911. To her dismay and the others standing by, there was no answer. To make matters worse, the headline of this posting was, "Young man dies when no one answers 911." This allegation was extremely upsetting to me, and I wanted answers. For the past week, city employees have been compiling the facts of the situation and spending time and resources tracking this down. I can tell you with 100% certainty, Ms. Janet Gillich, along with the alleged employee of the store, made no attempt to check the facts before posting these remarks. This irresponsible story seems to be completely fabricated in an attempt to continue what Ms. Gillich and a handful of others on Facebook and other social sites want to accomplish: discredit the Ashtabula Police Department and remove Chief Stell from his position. The facts are this. There was a man that collapsed in a business on Main Avenue on June 20th. Video surveillance of the store shows this man entering the store at 9:19:52 p.m. At 9:21:46 p.m., a female customer can be seen notifying the store staff of the situation and carrying a cell phone. At the same time, a cell phone call was received at our dispatch center stating there was a man that had collapsed and was turning blue. This customer was later identified as the 911 caller. Our officers routed the call to community care ambulance. At 9:29:55 p.m., approximately 7 to 8 minutes after receiving the 911 call and routing it properly, the first responder from CCAN arrived on the scene. At 9:33:55 p.m., the victim can be seen being wheeled out on a stretcher. The victim, as we know, was treated at the scene, refused transport, and was not taken to a hospital, which means he did not die. No other calls were received during this time at 911, nor did any calls go unanswered, as Ms. Gillich and the employee have stated. All calls, even those not answered or calls in which a caller would hang up, are recorded in the 911 system. This was confirmed to us by Janet Boland from the Ashtabula County EMA 911. She also confirmed no other calls were made from this location. I am outraged by the fact that Ms. Gillich and others on Facebook and these websites would fabricate and continue this allegation. Ms. Gillich quoted the employee as saying, "It took some time for the ambulance to get there. A customer used her cell phone to call them directly," which is not true. The call was received at 911. As stated above, approximately 10 minutes passed from the time the person entered the store until a first responder was on the scene. It was less than a 7-minute response time from the 911 call to arrival. Everyone did their job properly. Ms. Gillich and those out to get the chief and discredit our police officers have advised people to know the direct numbers to the different emergency agencies rather than calling 911. This is completely irresponsible of them. The amount of time and resources the city has spent chasing this fabricated story is something all citizens of the city should be outraged about. This group has proven time and time again they are irresponsible, not credible, and are not interested in the truth. I therefore will not spend any more of the city's time chasing their fabricated stories that originate on websites. If you have an issue, file a formal complaint with the city directly. I want to apologize to the members of the Ashtabula Police Department and Chief Stell for not confronting these accusations publicly sooner. I did not feel this group should be given credibility and gain followers. We have proven in this situation they do not deserve any credibility. This recent allegation has just gone too far, and I hope the citizens realize the personal motivations and vendettas of those posting this negative propaganda. This has been done to keep our officials and employees from accomplishing the important tasks of the city by focusing on disproving their allegations. We have seen this tactic before. People like this judge their own success by the failures of others, and I will no longer allow this type of behavior to occupy our time. I know that some of the other members have some comments they'd like to make as well.
I don't have a prepared statement. I just wanted to communicate to you that my office has experienced this sort of harassment as well. Just about 10 days ago, a lady identifying herself as Dodie Matson posted on Facebook that a matter that had been referred to my office for prosecution many months ago was, quote-unquote, still sitting on Franklin's desk. After making that posting, she called my office to find out if that was the case. Again, someone identifying herself as Dodie Matson called and was advised that that person had been prosecuted and been sentenced to 60 days in jail. She ultimately went back and posted that also, just adding that that wasn't what the community wanted me to do. So, you know, this sort of ready, fire, aim mentality is out there among this group, and I've experienced it too.
Well, my only comment, well, I would appreciate Mr. Franklin and Mr. Timonere for taking the time to do this. And I was concerned with the amount of time that we spent on this. We spent a lot of man-hours tracking this down. It wasn't a matter of, from the beginning, that we thought that there was wrongdoing. We knew from the beginning that this wasn't the way it happened. But we, of course, have to prove what we're saying. So we had to spend the time to track down. We had to contact Conneaut PD, who is the department that takes the rollovers for 911 if we don't answer them. We had to contact CCAN to get their information. The emergency room at ACMC. We contacted the coroner's office looking for a dead body. We tracked down all the records on Facebook, all the the video from the store. We had to go in there a couple times. Spent all weekend trying to get the video. It's not always that easy if there's not a manager available. And a number of other things. I could go on. We spent 6 or 7 days working on this thing, and we had to, because frankly we were being accused of causing the death of somebody by our misfeasance. And this is just one of a litany of things that have been done like this with this group and on these sites. And it's obvious to me what their goal is and what their motivations are, but not everybody knows that. People see these things. Hundreds of people read these things, and I hear back from people in the community asking me about these issues, regarding the boat and lawsuits and things like that. And quite frankly, there's a lot of misinformation very intentionally being put out there. And I think it's important that people understand that these people don't have any credibility whatsoever. They're time and time again saying things that are untrue, and in many instances, I'm relatively sure that these individuals know these statements are untrue, yet they're putting it out there anyway. If you have experience over the years working within the agency, and then you allow information out there that you know is blatantly unfactual, then I would have to say that there's a motivation there. So that's where I stand on it, and I hopefully this will quell some of this problem, and we don't have to waste any more time doing this, police department.
Chief Stell, if you don't mind, would you run down what actually happens with a 911 call if it were to come in and our officers were occupied on another 911 call or something else was going on?
If for any reason, whether it be that the officer is already tied up on the 911 line, or if the person simply, as the allegation was, nobody just simply didn't answer the phone, there's built-in redundancy in the 911 program. This is through the Ashtabula County EMA. It's not the Ashtabula City's 911 program. We're simply we're one of the 4 locations in the county that answer the phones for 911. And the way the system's built, or the way this redundancy is built into the system, is if you don't pick up the phone, it rolls over to the next agency, which for Ashtabula, the next agency would be Conneaut PD. They will pick up and answer the phone. And then if they don't pick up and answer for some reason, it'll roll over to an administrative line. So there's plenty of redundancy built into it. And the fact is, we contacted Conneaut just to verify they did not get any 911 rollovers that night from us. It didn't happen. So therefore, there weren't multiple 911s not being answered. And the message I got from the 911 administrator today through my records clerk was that the 911 system was working perfectly that night through their investigation of this matter. So.
The one other thing I guess I would like to say is one of the accusations in this statement was that the city police department did not respond appropriately because they were made aware that this was a drug-related incident. I heard the 911 tape, and in no place on the 911 tape could it be audibly heard that there was drugs involved with this incident, that there was an overdose. They did say a person was in distress or was turning blue without breathing. And even if it had been informed that there was drugs involved that could have potentially been an overdose, I don't think it's protocol for departments to respond for a potential overdose unless there's drug trafficking going on or something of that nature. Is that correct, Chief?
Yes, if it comes in as strictly a medical call, we typically don't respond to strictly to medical calls unless the ambulance requests that we go. We will go to the scene if they ask us to. We were never contacted by CCAN that our response was required, and it strictly came in as a medical call. You get hundreds of them a year. We don't have the resources to respond to all the medical calls.
But more importantly, I think, is the fact that it was clearly stated that there was, 911 was told that there was a drug-related case, and that could certainly not be heard on 911 from any of the call that was taken. And I notified, Mr. Timonere as soon as I had seen that initially, and I appreciate the fact that he did take the matter seriously, because obviously if there's a problem with our 911 system, or certainly with how it's being answered, we want to address it. We want our citizens to be safe, and I know he took the situation seriously to make sure that there wasn't an issue, and I'm certainly glad that we validated that there was not an issue and that we handled the call appropriately.
I think one thing to also reiterate is we don't know if this was drug-related. We don't know anything because the gentleman was not even transported to the hospital. So we don't know if it was a diabetic attack and he received something, and and of course with HIPAA laws you don't know that. All we do know is he was treated at the scene, refused transport, and walked away from the scene.
But let me also say this, in that I understand, I've been in emergency situations and can understand how minutes sometimes seem like hours. I think that's expected and understandable. I think to state there was a long time that elapsed as far as appropriate response time as a fact is another story than to say that it seemed like it was a long time before anybody got there. And so again, I think the videotape clearly showed 10 minutes from the time that the person walked in the door before there was even an emergency, before we had personnel there, was I thought a very quick response time considering.
I wanted to mention one other thing too. One of the allegations was that the reason the call was mishandled in the first place was because there wasn't an actual dispatcher. We do have one gentleman who's presently laid off, and that was mentioned. And I just wanted to state that our officers, all of our officers that are new hires, and all the officers that sit at the desk and work dispatch, all have the same training and the same certifications as a dispatcher. They've gone through their leads training, 911 training, and just overall training on how to do the job as part of their field training program. And the officer that's sitting at the desk that night has all the same certifications that a dispatcher would have and the same training. So to suggest that they can't do the job because they're not properly trained, they're not professional dispatchers, is simply untrue. And furthermore, officers have been dispatching in this department for decades, longer than I've been here. They were, even when we had a full complement of dispatchers, we still had officers that assisted dispatching when there's a shortfall. If you don't have a dispatcher that day, well, guess what? You have to have a policeman do it. Would I like to have a bunch of dispatchers? Sure, but there's always budgetary concerns. So I just wanted to touch on that as well.
One other comment about the 911 not being a reliable system to use. I don't think there's anything wrong with people memorizing numbers for, the police department or CCAN or anything like that. But in a state of emergency, it would be very difficult to remember that number, or very easy to misdial that number. I think it would be important to know that 911 is a very simple number to press, a simple number to remember, and certainly I would never hesitate to tell somebody that they should use 911 to make an emergency call from wherever they are, as opposed to trying to remember a 7-digit number that might be harder to get dialed correctly. even if there was not an answer on the first or second ring at 911, because of the built-in systems that are in place, if you let it ring, someone is going to answer at some point in time. So even if you have to give it 5 rings or 10 rings or whatever, I still think that's the safest way to go.
Any questions?
Do you have a copy of your statement for us?
That's from that.
And I do have a question, Jim. Oh, I'm sorry, Shelley.
Oh, no.
Okay.
It's all right, go ahead.
I do have a question. When it comes down to this group of individuals who are apparently trying to discredit the city and also go after Robert Stell, why are they trying to get him taken out of that position? I mean, do you have an idea what their agenda is or why?
I wish I did, other than, the way things have seemed to be done in the city for years and years is, you have to hire my friend, you have to hire the guy that I want, you have to do this and you have to do that, and you have to be able to get me out of a ticket. I can tell you under my administration and from what I've seen from Chief Stell and what I've seen from Mr. Franklin, that unfortunately isn't happening for people anymore. And I don't know if that's a issue that they have, that they don't have the insider control that they think they used to have. I also know that through our Broken Windows program, we have taken down many, many, many drug houses. I don't know if they're dissatisfied with that. Maybe they're, speculation is rampant. You don't know.
Would it be safe to say that these people are part of the administration that was here prior, considering that Michael Franklin did make reference to Dodie Mattson, who used to be a dispatcher at one point in time for the city of Ashtabula, and her husband was the chief of police? Do you think there might be some anger still based out of that situation? Because your predecessor, Tony Cantagallo, apparently had to release Mr. Mattson from his position.
That could be. I do believe that there, from what I've been copied and emailed, there have been references to that there's some belief that, Chief Stell stole the job or whatever away from Chief Mattson. I know Chief Mattson in passing. I don't know him personally. We have conversations. I only know of Miss Mattson from some personal emails that she sent me and some things that she has said back and forth personally and in confidence, and that could be. That could be.
So it's all speculative at this point.
The bottom line is, I have zero problem addressing issues with this city, and I want to address those issues. That is why I ran for this spot. But to send me on a wild goose chase to involve county agencies, medical agencies, the hospital, a business on Main Avenue, our fire department, our police officers, to waste my time doing that is not fair to me. It is not fair to this administration, and it certainly is not fair to the taxpayers who want things done. We are running extremely short-staffed, especially in our police department. And, the morale at our police department, because of our short staff, is already low. They're working their butts off, and we're doing everything we can to try to figure out a way to bring police officers back. But for these officers to have to go online and read the stuff that is written about them, and to have their families go online and read the stuff that is written about them, and they're the ones that are going to be the first responders, it's exactly why I'm.
Well, isn't that part of the job, though? I mean, don't get me wrong,
Absolutely.
but everybody wants to have a police officer show up when you dial 911, but they don't want to see a police officer in the rearview mirror.
That's correct.
And unfortunately, I mean, this is rumor and speculation on people on Facebook. I mean, why is the city spending time and money to chase after speculation on Facebook?
Well, first off, as I had stated, this article was written and headlined, "Young Man Dies When No One Answers 911." This is out there on the internet for everyone to see about the city of Ashtabula.
Now, is that on Facebook or is that on a
This is
different website?
actually on a website called Ashtabula City News that has recently popped up.
Is that the one by Nicholas Vodka?
I believe it is.
Okay.
The times are wrong in this. The allegations, as we've proven, are completely wrong in this. But this is still out there for everybody to read. And, if somebody were to come to the city and say, what the heck happened, and I didn't do the due diligence to investigate this, now we're going to be confused of a cover-up, and now we're going to be, accused of X, Y, and Z. I had to in this case. We have chased down information about the police boat for them. We've provided all that information. There still seems to be misinformation out there. How many other things have we?
Well, you continue, just to touch on some of that, I understand your question as well, but, you know, we shake our head and not necessarily respond to things where they say, well, the police department's $65,000 over budget, when we're not over budget at all. We're presently not over budget. That we don't actually own the boat, we're driving around the sheriff's department's boat. That's not true. We've got the paperwork to show that we own the boat, and we pay the insurance on it, and it's titled to us, and so forth. You know, that we paid out $600,000 to an individual lawsuit, and were found to be at fault for beating some guy up, and that wasn't true either. And but in this instance, they said we killed somebody, or basically caused this guy to die through our misfeasance, or suggested, I should say. You know, that because this guy's now dead because we didn't do our job properly. This is a little different. You know, those other things, those are also untrue, and they're annoying, and you know, but you can't go on there and argue with these people about every little thing they say. But you know, we felt, okay, enough's enough. Now they're saying that we caused some guy to lose his life, so, or like I said, at least suggesting that we were the cause of that. So, you know, we felt that it was time to do something about it.
If I may, this sort of press conference is necessary because these people style themselves as media, but they only print the news that they want. They don't print opposing views. You all have the obligation to present opposing views if you're aware of them. They control access to their sites so that it wouldn't be possible, for example, for Chief Stell or me to get on the site without their consent and say, wait a minute, there's another side to this story. So what we're left with, and I guess I hate to put it that way, but what we're left with is the traditional media. We have to come to you and say, there's a story out there on what is basically a propaganda site, and the allegations are so serious that we track them down, and here's the truth of it.
Believe me, the last thing I want to do is have anybody going out and searching for the story on there and then now following these people. I know what it's like to drink the Kool-Aid, and I definitely don't want people drinking the Kool-Aid in a situation like this with the things that we have been able to absolutely disprove time and time again with this group. I just think, like I said, I've heard it from our officers that the stuff is out there, and I really felt obligated that we had to come publicly with it and just stop what's been going on with this propaganda on these sites. And especially in this case where we can trace down to the second of a gentleman coming into the store and leaving the store, all within a matter of 12 minutes, 7 to 8 minute response time from the time getting the phone call at 911, actually getting the phone call at 911. It's all there for everybody to see. And again, before these quote-unquote news stories went out there, I certainly was never contacted about it to hear what we had to say. I know the chief was not contacted either. So, and quite frankly, because I don't spend much time on these sites, you know, Mr. Ducro sent it to me knowing that, and I took it extremely seriously.
It's kind of like a libelous article. Is there anything you guys can do to stop stuff like that from being written in the future? Is there anything that legally can be done?
The problem with the internet is there's no criminal charge that can be placed on putting out false information. You know, I said to the guys earlier, when I was in college, that was kind of like the beginning of AOL and the beginning of all, you know, doing your college research online. And in a communications class, the professor gave us a topic, you're going to write about this topic, and he gave us 5 websites to go to. And we all did the project, quoting all these 5 sites, and then when we turned in the project and he graded them, he informed us that he created those 5 sites and it was all misinformation on there. And the moral of the story was, do your homework, do your research, go pick up a book, get the facts, because what is out there on the internet is not always the truth. And in this case, I think we've more than proven that that's the case.